Looks like.
Yeah.
I thought that one had disappeared.
They were failing for a long time, and I think I still have a patch up there to increase the allocated disk size for them, but it started working. Yeah. I don't think I've talked to anyone with Sheepdog for several years now.
It was just like one guy showing up every now and then.
So it was a Hitachi. So
I don't know. Sheepdog's an open source
It's an
project,
open source thing.
so their CI is run by Infra.
I don't know that we've ever heard of anyone actually using it. And
Yeah.
It's been in there forever, but
we got the Sheepdog backend for clients too.
really?
Yeah.
Probably the same people that did it.
Yeah.
I've never heard of anyone actually using Sheepdog.
Okay, so some of the previous input I had gotten was okay, so we didn't need to have like all the required driver functions documented. So I collapsed that down and just listed, here, okay, it's assumed all of the drivers below.
Unfortunately, most of them can do a create.
What?
So fortunately, most of them can do a create volume. That's pretty useful.
That many support extend attached volume?
So extend attached volume is actually depends on the protocol being used more than the driver, I think, if I remember correctly. At least that's the main reason it doesn't work for Ceph, because
RBD.
we needed Nova patches to enable some things in RBD, which are in flight right now. I think somebody's updating it pretty recently.
So we got Nova support for doing.
It hasn't
External?
merged, but it's getting
Okay.
close for Ceph. I mean, we have it
But for other drivers,
XYZ
yeah.
and FC.
Yeah.
Okay, so that code's finally being used.
Yeah.
God, I added that forever ago in Brick.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
good.
forget when they did that, but
A couple of releases ago now, I think.
yeah.
So yeah, if you've configured cinder.conf with Nova credentials, and if you're running the right version of Bluebird, and if your driver supports it,
Yeah.
then you can extend an attached volume.
So this lists the drivers that are supported. So like Data Core was marked unsupported in the last release, and so eventually that will just go away. And then I put down at the bottom on a per driver or a per release basis which ones are removed, so that we keep track of that.
Instead of creating a support matrix output for every release.
Right. Because I don't.
Well, it will be every release, but there'll be a history here, right?
Yeah.
Like the Copperhead driver isn't in the support matrix anymore.
Right. And then, so you don't have to go back to previously see when that was removed. Though I need to go through this. I think this list isn't complete.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I thought we had more than just Copperhead.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was 3 or 4 of them in your talk yesterday.
Yeah. Which I realized as I was prepping for this discussion that I need to go and fix that. So that will be a to-do for me. Does the list of functions, because there's at one point you'd look through the list of what I had there, Eric, and said it didn't look right as
I do
to
vaguely remember something about that.
because we've got the feature is supported vendor driver, so it's either supported or unsupported. Extend and attach volume, that's something that can be different on a per driver basis. Snapshot attachment.
Well, it can be, but I think very soon it won't be. It's
Okay.
almost everything supports it now.
So is that a feature that should be removed from the list
Well,
and added to
I'm
the,
gonna leave it for now.
okay. Um, what else do we have here? Snapshot attachment.
Is attaching a snapshot actually a user exposed operation? Or is that really just for backup and stuff?
I thought users could attach it themselves.
They probably can.
Yeah. QoS.
The description for QoS is a little bit off.
Okay.
Because this is about backend QoS, I think.
Okay, I was wondering about that.
Yeah, the real description is that these drivers can set it on the back end, but you can still use QoS on the other ones. You just use front end QoS instead.
Okay. Okay, I can update that. Consistency groups. I think that looks okay.
Is that a little misleading since we actually got rid of consistency groups and we have volume groups?
Well, there still needs to be one that tells you which drivers can do the consistent snaps.
Yeah.
We may want to word it differently, but
Consistent group snapshots. Maybe.
Yeah, so where did that, I got spun around as to where that all actually landed. So consistency groups was initially consistent group snapshots. And then we made,
No, it was originally consistency groups.
okay,
and then we made it just groups.
We made generic volume groups.
Okay.
And then,
And the
With
consistency
generic.
part is like an attribute of those.
because we thought there would be more group volume.
Well, the main next target, I think, was going to be replication
Yeah.
groups, but we haven't actually done that yet.
Ah.
But it also
Well, 'cause-
gave us this real sneaky looking like group snapshot thing that looks a lot like a consistency group, except it's not consistent.
Yeah.
And that still frightens me, but
So, but not everybody who supports consistency groups has generic groups implemented,
well,
right?
everybody supports generic groups.
Consistency groups were deprecated and
Okay,
The driver doesn't actually have to do anything to support groups, because that's more of a API manager function for the groups themselves. The
okay,
driver has to do a lot to support consistency group snapshots of those groups.
Is that being reported as a capability by drivers?
It should be. I honestly have spent very little time ever looking at consistency groups, so I'm not sure what else is in there. But It's just not something that seems to come up that much.
Yeah.
It was important to EMC.
Yeah.
So the consistent snapshot is like the same time across all the volumes in the group.
Yeah, so you
Yeah,
have
that's basically the idea. You group a bunch of volumes together and you say, I want to snapshot that group, and they all get snapped at the same time.
Biggest use case is like if you have a database that has data stores across multiple volumes, you can make sure a transaction is consistent across.
I
all
think
of
what a
them.
lot of people end up actually doing is using the snapshots to do the same thing. Because I think you can orchestrate those to achieve the same outcome without having a
Yeah,
backend support for it.
Nova snapshots will actually do some querying of the data.
Well, it pauses the VM.
Yeah.
So I think since you pause the VM, you can get basically the same thing.
So it sounds like I should reword what that
I mean,
item
it's
is.
entirely possible that since that's the only feature related to groups, that maybe we should just leave it like that for now. I don't know. I'm not sure what the best way is to show it. Because changing this to say generic groups with consistency doesn't really help anybody. I don't know.
Okay. So I will. Well, so really the description isn't wrong.
It's just that we had something called consistency groups that we actually got rid of, and now we're
But everything we changed was really mostly from an implementation point of view.
Yeah.
The actual feature is still basically the same thing.
Okay. So it sounds like it may be better to not mess with it right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Thin provisioning, not everybody does that. Should keep record of that. Volume migration where it's storage
Why
assisted.
does it say that provisioning is missing for Ceph? That doesn't sound right. It's strange. I wonder if we're not doing something right in the driver, because they're definitely the provision volumes and stuff.
Okay. It's possible that it's just not right on the list. And then multi-attach support.
Numbers on that are still a little bit lower than I would have guessed they were.
The multi-attach?
Yeah.
Yeah, really not that many people have officially said they support it. And it sounds like I need to make a more obvious note on the old matrix. I mean, I don't think we want to delete it because it's got good history in it.
Where is
The original, just type in, yeah, that one.
It has a big note on the top of it.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's good because it has history as to when older drivers and added functionality.
Yeah.
I wonder who added. Did I add that? I forgot.
Pretty sure my buddy Justin added that
Okay,
a while ago.
I meant to do that. And
Because we were trying to figure something out one day. People were sending us email looking at that page and it had all kind of stale info on it.
so, other than needing some accuracy updates, nobody hates the new support matrix.
I'm trying to think if there's anything feature-wise that's missing from it.
That would be another question. I really wish that we could organize, that we could flip the way that it's rendered. But you thought that was not a simple.
It can be done. It's
Rotate the X and Y.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's a Sphinx extension, so all it really is going through the list and building things up. The way it's doing it right now, it's putting it right into the table order, but we could have it collect all that data into just basically the list and stuff, and then depending on a flag, render the table one way or the other.
Okay.
We could, in theory, track encryption support if we wanted to. Since that's currently in flight for NFS and, NFS is the important one. Probably NFS and all the other FS-ish drivers. But I'm just paying attention to the NFS one.
What do you mean by encryption support? Encryption?
Well, NFS doesn't do encryption yet.
Okay.
I've been poking at that gradually for the last few months and have some code that at least makes some of it work.
Is there an easy way to tell if a driver supports it or not? Is it reported as a capability or?
Well, all of them that are iSCSI and fiber blockish things all work.
Okay.
The only ones that it comes up on are the ones that use different protocols that don't attach as block devices,
Okay.
which until recently included Ceph, but we added Ceph. But we still have to add NFS and some of these like the VMware VMDK stuff. I have no idea. I assume it doesn't. I would be surprised if it works, because I think they would have probably had to do a lot of work to make that happen.
Okay. So that's something we could look at adding to the list.
I actually wonder if that works for scale IO. We never had it because it was supposed to work everywhere, but it didn't work everywhere. I'm trying to think of what else we would need.
Wow, that big monitor can almost see the whole table.
Can't believe how
Oh, well,
laggy.
do drivers have to turn on a flag to say that they have validated the active HA works, right?
Yes.
So that would be the other big one to add.
Ah, okay.
And everyone was waiting on documentation to figure out how they can determine whether they can enable that flag or not.
Well,
But yeah, we should have that in there.
Okay. I'll add that one as well.
I'm assuming we're not going to run into this with the volume reimage work, but I'm not sure. I haven't thought about that one enough yet.
Okay. Okay, so that's something we'll just need to keep in mind when we get to the volume reimage point.
Is that moving along still? I hadn't looked at it for a while.
It is moving along.
Yeah.
So if the spec got merged on the Nova side.
I think there was some initial patches on Cinder too for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those you had -2'd it. Was the last
Oh,
update. on
yeah,
that.
that's right. I might have skewed it because I think the Nova guys were saying they didn't have anything figured out yet.
Okay, so you may want to so that's going to be on a per driver basis as well as to whether it's supported.
I don't know. That's what I was just wondering.
Okay.
I'm not sure. But I'll just, do we want to track the optimized revert to snapshot stuff? Since that's, I mean, it's supposed to work on all of them, but we track like the optimized migration stuff in here too.
Yeah. Hey Rajat, are you able to hear us?
Yes, I'm able to hear you.
Okay, cool. Thanks for joining. Okay, so I made notes to consider those.
Well, we already went down that road for the one we had now.
What? All right. Doesn't seem like anybody has any other pressing concerns with that.
Needs more colors.
Needs more colors. I'm colorblind, so.
And it sounds too.
So like when you click on the X here, wah, wah. Is that? Oh, okay. All right, so I'll take those to-dos back on that and make some updates. And I don't know, have you done work with Sphinx extensions before?
Mm-hmm.
How hard is it? Something you can do or you can teach me to do, or?
I can try to get to it.
Okay.
Outreachy intern to do.
Hey, there you go.
Is Sophia looking for things to do?
She's actually an actual person.
She's an actual person.
Wow, she was fake before? Is your actual person interested in that?
And custom Sphinx extensions, I kind of know.
Who doesn't love a good Sphinx extension? All right, we'll leave that as a we'll leave that just as a Sean may try to look at this. Since he's not totally a real person, he's kind of more than a person. He's shadow PTL. Shadow. Okay, what is the note section for? Well, that's a good question. So Rajat's wondering what the note section is for.
Where?
Down at the bottom.
Yeah, it just says that it's under construction.
Was that
Yeah,
just somewhere to say that?
Yeah, I
this
think
document is a
I think that
continuous
is
work
the
in
note.
progress. Is there anything else we should make note of?
Um,
I'm not liable for inaccuracies.
there are no more notes.
Well, actually, that's a relevant note is the fact that it's kind of up to the vendors to ensure that the matrix is accurate for their driver.
Well, so how much of this is programmatically generated?
None.
I thought some of it was.
Well, I mean, all of it's based on a INI file that,
Oh, that's right. I
Yeah.
remember that thing. Oh, that's probably why the supplement one is. Fix the supplement. I don't remember where it is though, but I remember seeing it.
Oh, I see. So you update the INI file.
and then
At
it
the time of
generates the
release.
documentation.
Okay.
And so I went through when we originally created this and went through every driver and took my best stab at getting everything accurate and asked the vendors to go out and look at it.
Right.
And so if it's inaccurate, it's because they failed to follow up and make sure it was accurate.
Right.
And since when people touch stuff that is relevant to this, I go and say, hey, go update this.
Bad
touch. Did you say bad touch? Oh, Mr. McGinnis. You're reaching your slap happy part of the day.
It'd be really nice if the big lists of drivers were in alphabetical order, so you could actually.
I'm actually working on a patch right now to fix this.
Oh, I think I saw that actually. Yeah.
No, I've
Maybe
got
that was
it.
a different-
So you started ignoring me and just started fixing things? I got you.
That's how these things work.
Meanwhile, I get nothing done because I'm busy trying to lead the cats that are all roaming around the barnyard going, meow.
I can't stay focused on one thing too long.
No comment.
So with the, I'm just looking at whether it's worth changing this. I mean, you got to scroll horizontally, but if we do it the other way,
We
you're
just
gonna have to
added enough
scroll
things.
vertically, you know?
Yeah, we
So
just-
I think we need to make it VR based.
Well, I was thinking.
A Minecraft extension so you can.
Oh, nice.
Here's this
We
driver.
get a bunch of high school people to post for us.
Yeah, I could get my older son into helping out then. Oh my God. He has an entire city that I really feel like we should publish somewhere. Put out in a server so people can walk around it. What's this driver do? Oh. All of a sudden it explodes a huge long list. Well, I mean, I guess it doesn't.
It's because, yeah, you're gonna have to, there's enough there that it's gonna be past that.
Yeah.
Unless
I have one of those on my desk at home.
yeah, I used to. So I think the thing to look into would be that, you put the check mark and then it only displays those. As long as we're wish listing this for somebody to do, that's all I'm saying.
I don't know that
Because
we
I think somebody could put up the patch to switch the orientation and that would be okay, but I think we'd have the same problem.
I don't know that we really want to make it
Super sexy.
super encouraging toward like purchasing decision kind of stuff.
True.
You're gonna be like, I clicked these boxes and I bought this thing, it doesn't work.
We're only guaranteeing that the display works.
Because that used to happen.
What?
It still does or not.
People would base their decisions on stuff out in the wiki.
I don't know. This isn't the wiki, this is the docs.
The docs. Quack, quack. All right. Do we want to move on from that subject?
Overall, I think it's a nice page.
Oh, thank you. That's the first time I've heard that. Okay. Next on the agenda, what do we do about the zone manager drivers? I think this is less of an issue when I originally put this out there.
Yeah. It was looking a little bleak at the time.
So they got back on the wagon. Is that why it's less of an issue? Or?
Well, they're at least looking at wagons.
Okay.
Let's see.
Is anybody maintaining this driver? Does that manager thing?
Well,
What driver? The Cisco Syn- I haven't touched that stuff.
Looks
in a
promising.
I haven't done anything. The last thing I did with the FCZM was to remove the decorator.
so the Cisco one has been running with 98% success, which is absolutely amazing.
That's good.
But they were also running like 3 tests.
Okay.
But
Oh,
it's better than 0 tests. So
you know what test they were running?
Well, we can
Attach,
find out.
detach. I mean, that's all they really need to run.
yeah, I think when I had worked with Angela before, we came up with a set of like 13 that touched it in some way, but bad touch.
Yeah, because the zone manager is only needed when you do an attachment of any kind or detachment of any kind, which is Nova,
Oh, we need to
copy
do
on
like
the image,
image to volume tests.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Are any driver CIs also running with this?
I don't know. The solid fire was the
Where's
last one. Not solid fire.
Pure.
Pure. Yeah.
Wait,
That's
That's
what
Because we're probably getting a little bit. of
I'm too
coverage.
far down.
yeah.
Probably getting a little bit
There.
of coverage out of drivers.
Oh, 1 test. They ran 1
Test
test.
attached, that's
Yeah, test attached. Okay,
that's not a
fine.
good-
Well, something is better than nothing.
Yeah,
And that is the primary, that should be the primary test covering the path that needs to be tested with fiber channel drivers. I would hope.
Well, and the counter argument would be that if they spent 20 minutes building an environment, they could run 2 or 3 tests instead of 1.
Yeah. I'd like to see them running more than one test.
I don't actually know exactly what that test actually does or how interesting it is. But,
I think it tests attaching and detaching volume.
well, yeah,
In
that doesn't
theory.
mean it does very much.
Unless somebody named it really poorly.
That numbers happen.
Let's see.
Oh, they're recording now?
Or?
Okay.
Ooh.
That would be exciting. So much logging. Oh, it's actually. Oh, right. So dev stack. Oh, no, there it is. Test attach, detach volume. Passed. Congratulations. Eric is skeptical, but
I'm skeptical that that means that this thing works.
okay. Well, we can shove our heads back in the sand. I mean, you know the zone manager code better than anybody, so
yeah.
Well, what's the goal of the CI job?
Just make sure the zone manager and the drivers work just like back-end drivers work. That was the original intention.
Yeah, but if you just run one test, you're verifying that you can attach and detach a volume. We have all these other tests that are way more likely to shake out bugs that do more stuff.
So from the fiber channel zone manager standpoint, a standard volume attached versus a copy volume to image is exactly the same thing. There's no difference between the two of those.
Yeah, the more interesting tests would be attaching 5 volumes at the same time kind of tests, I would think. I don't know. I don't actually know anything about zone managers, so I don't know what the interesting tests would be.
So if you're doing 5 volume attaches at the same time, basically after the first zone happens, every other operation is an OR. because the zone manager tests if there's an existing zone
Right.
for those two endpoints and goes, I don't need to do anything. So, I mean, there's still some value for scaling it, I guess, but
But I don't know. I mean, talking about this, my head is really way more in the next topic than this one. Like, I don't care about testing. I don't care about testing the zone managers. I care way more about the volume drivers. But,
Okay. So to me, that says, okay, we have CI reporting again. They're both testing the same thing. They've gotten that far. We don't have, I mean, when was the last time somebody said, hey, the zone manager isn't working for some reason?
I don't know.
years.
Yeah. But I know that people are making use of it.
Yes, I
Um,
have customers that are too.
yeah, because that's one of the
Pretty much have
value
to.
adds of Cinder, is the fact that it can do that.
You can do
You
that.
pretty much have to if you have any fairly complex deployment, right?
Right.
And if you're using fiber at all, you
Well, right.
So I'm gonna say, hey, yay, they're both testing again.
okay, cool.
Um,
There's also, at one point, we had discussed just taking the zone manager out of Cinder, making an external library that people can use.
was that why you started that process of, okay,
That's why I got rid of the decorators and made it a function call inside the drivers themselves. But doing that process raises all kinds of questions about how they get the zone manager installed, or
Yeah.
and deployment issues and stuff like that. Which driver needs it, which drivers don't need it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
okay. I'm going to celebrate the fact they're both running CI again and move forward to the larger topic of the fact that CI is broken in general. The process is. Okay. All right. So, what would you like to say about third-party CI, Eric?
awesome.
To answer the first question, no vendors are now running their own tests.
Okay. What makes you say that?
Well, a lot of them turn off various tempest tests for unknown reasons.
Okay.
They fail, or there's a bug in the driver, or who knows. But a lot of them do turn off tests that they should not be turning off.
Okay.
And we seem to have had repeated discussions lately about test volume boot pattern, which I don't know why that's like really, I don't know why that's even a debate, because that's one of the fairly useful tests that we have that exercises stuff. And if you can't pass it, something's probably broken.
You know, someone brought it up recently. I remember seeing it when I first set up the storage center CI, is that there's nothing that flushes writes. So I actually
But
did.
there is, because we
Is
went
there?
through this with that whole head big guy who didn't
Oh, okay.
understand the same thing.
Okay.
Because what happens is in test volume boot pattern, it makes some files on a file system inside the instance,
Mm-hmm.
and then it calls sync. And
Okay.
if your iSCSI stack works correctly, that sends like an iSCSI cache flush back to the back end, and it's supposed to flush everything out. But that's what the headbig driver didn't do. Was when you called
Oh, they weren't
sync
honoring
command,
sync?
it like didn't actually flush caches or anything.
Oh,
And then they kept complaining the test was wrong, and it turned out that they had to
surprised they
actually
didn't
fix
run
their
into
backend.
problems with other things, but
Yeah,
sync
you
is a
would-
pretty.
You would think they would run into a lot of problems.
Yeah.
But because I dug all into this because I had to argue with that guy like 6 times. I studied up how that test worked and all that stuff.
Okay.
Um,
I do. It was like 4 years ago, I think, but I saw something similar where it looked like sync was not being called, but that was. I'm sure a lot has changed since then.
and I've caught a handful of these with people who were doing cert with our product, where they come and they say some Tempest test fails, and then I go look upstream and they've turned it off upstream. Maybe sender CI. And I have multiple requests out to vendors right now to go turn some of them on, which I don't know where they're going, but. So what we actually do about that, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I've noticed them and I'm sitting there going, I don't know, should I just go poke Jay about this? Or like, I don't really know what to do whenever, if we see some that aren't running correct amount of tests.
So, I mean, the answer is they should be running all of the Tempest volume test cases, right?
Well, plus a couple others.
Plus a couple
Because I
others.
think the test volume food pattern, I think is actually like a scenario test or something.
I think what we publish is that they have to run anything that matches the pattern volume. So as long as there's volume in it
Yeah.
somewhere.
Well, and the other big issue that we have here is that we don't push the Tempest plugin, which we actually need to start.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the things.
Because that's an easy step we can take there's not that many tests in there, but
Yeah.
we've made a few and we really need to start pushing that thing up there too.
Yeah. So yeah, maybe we need a list here of what our issues are with third-party CI. They need to be running Python 3. They need to be running the plugin, and they need to be running all volume Tempest tests. And most of them are not.
I was trying to go find the, where do we document what they're supposed to run now? Oh, they just run tox-e all --volume. Looks like.
Yeah.
So that probably catches all the right stuff.
But we should have it
Tox,
documented somewhere
dash
in
E.
the R's that they need to be running Python 3, they need to be running the
Tox.
Oh,
plugin.
so it's on this, it's on our wiki right now. They have to run tox-e all --volume.
Do we say anything about the plugin, Tempest plugin?
No, because I mean, I kind of pointed this out a while ago and we never did anything.
Yep.
Well, I know we stated it somewhere. We probably just stated it in like a PTG session or a sender meeting, but didn't write it down.
It was something we discussed, but we didn't agree upon enforcement yet.
Although the Git repo for the Tempest plugin, it's expected that Cinder third-party CIs use the all plugin tox environment above for all test runs.
Oh yeah, so that command actually won't even work once you do the plugin. You have to run tox all plugin, I think.
Yeah, that's what Stein did.
So we need to update the wiki page,
Oh, in the repo.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Reviewing the repo.
which means we also need to update the
Okay.
that all this stuff. So I don't know. Is there value in going and surveying what people are actually running? I don't
In
know.
terms of the number of tests, or
Yeah, I mean,
I could,
we've
Go.
done that a while back. I don't,
it's been a while.
it's been-
well, there's a lot of them that are skipping stuff.
I suppose I could name and shame on the mailing list like I've done in the past and been like, hey, we're doing an audit of who's doing what here. And you are not following the rules.
Yeah, I mean, in theory, just vendors and just say, hey, can you go run these tests? But based on my attempts to do that so far, I'm not sure how well that's going to work. But I haven't made any kind of organized effort to do it.
Okay.
I've just done it from stuff that cropped up in downstream test issues.
Do we then want to set a goal of, in train, everybody should be also running the Tempest plugin tests? So go through this time around, audit what people are running, ping them if they're not, and have a documented goal of getting to using the Tempest plugins and train and Python 3.
Yeah, it seems like if we're gonna have to get them to update stuff, we might want to try to do those together.
Okay.
Even though probably adding the plugin is way easier than the Python 3 part. But
Okay. So I should probably start communicating that early and often.
Yeah,
Because otherwise people will ignore it. And then when I go out and put patch to unsupport their driver, they'll be like, hey, where'd this come from? So really that would mean by like milestone 2 of train, they need to have made those updates to their CI system. But that gives them from now, 6 months?
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's not a terribly big request for anybody that's like actively engaged in supporting their Cinder driver, I don't think. But I'm not sure how many of these vendors are doing that.
Yeah. Because these are updates that Ceph will need to make too, right?
Well, I mean, the Ceph one's running in Frigate, right? So in theory, I was actually wondering about this earlier today. I think in theory, we can just go on the Ceph job and stick -pi3 on the end of it and see what happens. I don't know what kind of shape that's in with the stuff that we install and CNO and all that, but it should be pretty easy to change. Hopefully, when we just change it, it actually works. But I mean, we're going to be doing this downstream for our product really soon too. So then it's just a question about what the gap is between what is it running on CNO now versus our product stuff. Can we run on Bionic mode too? I don't remember.
I think there are some jobs that run on Bionic.
I mean, if I was going to convert the Ceph job to Python 3, I'd probably want to go ahead and put it on that too, instead of like it worked on Python 3. Should be easy to try.
Bionic Beaver. Came up with that name. Really like the background logo on the desktop for that.
So, what about CIs running against OS Brick, like if you do? I don't know that very many do. Is that a concern or?
We had stated if they have their own custom connector that they need to be
Oh
running
yeah.
CI.
Well, that's not very many of them.
No, and that doesn't catch any issues for those that are using the default
Yeah.
connectors.
It's another one of those things that if you're engaged on supporting a Cinder driver, you would probably want to run it on OS Brick as well. But,
The key word is if you're engaged.
yeah, I don't know how to solve that problem.
Well, I think we have a good starting point here to go out and I'll do an audit of what's running. and say, hey, here's what's expected, and oh, by the way, by the next milestone, and I'll send a note to the mailing list saying that, hey, you know, you need to be planning by milestone 2 of train, you're testing Python 3, and you've got the Cinder Tempest plugin support in there. And we'll get the wiki updated with what needs to be done to include the plugins, and start there. Does that seem like a reasonable goal?
I think so.
And then readdress in Denver as to, okay, how many people are not running the right tests, and do we have a larger discussion that we have to have here, or what's going on? I feel like that's at least we have a plan going forward. What does the shadow PTL think now that he's paying attention?
What are you talking about? Just kidding.
Do we have any?
I'm gonna make you
stated,
start walking.
Do we have any stated expectations? I think we don't, around stable branches.
No, that's the CI testing can stable
Yeah,
branches?
well, a lot of CIs run there, but I'm not sure that all of them that run
They
there
don't mean
are
to.
even set up right.
Most of them that run there
Yeah.
don't even realize they are really.
Right.
Yeah, in an ideal world, they would be running against stable branches and making sure their drivers don't break, but
Well, or we could at least tell them what option to set to stop recording just those results there.
yeah. And
That's,
maybe,
'cause that's one of the most unfortunate things with this whole CI thing is like, we made this whole system to figure out if code works, and it's like unusable because it just barfs all over every patch everywhere.
yeah,
And it's like, every patch I submit, I get like 30 seconds after I submit it, some guy's CI failed.
some less than 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I know I've had comments from a few people about, whoa, I submitted a Cinder patch and I'm getting all these emails, what the hell?
Yeah.
I think we do need better documentation. Like we were saying this morning, if people could collaborate on how to, tips for actually setting up a CI, and then I think we need to have a page that doesn't just link off to to several other things about CI. That we need a page that says to run a third-party CI, you must be doing these things. And
Yeah, and it seems that people have gone and, like we were talking about earlier, diverged into all kind of customized ways to do this, which seems, I don't know. I mean, we all watched for years all the ludicrous number of man hours people put into building this stuff. Yeah, it's, I watched some of you had to actually do it.
It is ludicrous number of hours.
Ludicrous speed. They've gone to plaid.
We kicked around the idea like a year ago, coming up with some kind of, here's an image you can run, go set some options to make it do CI.
Oh, we talked about that in Denver, didn't we?
Yeah, but I don't know if anybody thought that was actually like something that was
People threw
achievable or
a
not.
bunch of things at us like, oh, but what about this and what about that? Actually, I think that was you that threw all the what about this and that at
I
us.
thought I was the one that suggested doing it. I don't know.
Somebody came back with a bunch of reasons why you could fail.
Well, that would be a big change from the current system.
Oh. I mean, it would be nice to be able to provide an image to people to, hey, do we have an interny person who wants it? So I'll take it to do to
pull our documents together about the third-party drivers and
Okay.
make sure they're in a clear spot. Because I'm having trouble finding. And then, so I'll pull together what I can, then we'll have a list of what we need to fill in. So the Google stuff is to the wiki again. I think Google must have like over prioritized the wiki.
Yeah, and we had
You do.
discussions about how to try to make it the docs instead,
I
but
think just put a pointer on that wiki page.
yeah.
What happened to the whole, I thought the wiki was going away. And then
We were talking about it, then realized there was just too much done on the wiki that they can't really replace. We could decide for Cinder that we're gonna stop and start moving some of the stuff in the wiki into our official docs and just get rid of our wiki pages.
I thought we kind of
We talked
do a
about
lot of that already. But
doing that. I could do more to make that happen.
I guess I haven't looked at the wiki stuff in a long time. I don't know what else even there anymore.
I guess, what you could do in the wiki is just edit the page and take everything out of it. And then
Yeah.
the history is still there.
Yeah,
And then, but when somebody gets to it, I guess their assumption would be, oh, I guess this project doesn't exist anymore.
I actually didn't know that we had a bunch of interesting content still in.
there is some out there.
The only page I ever go to is the one for the IRC meetings.
Yeah.
So that I can find the link to the Etherpad.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that's something that really should be out in our docs instead of.
Are we talking about the third-party CI systems wiki?
No, we're talking about everybody's. We're talking about the general Cinder wiki that still has content in it that should be moved. So that's really my bad that hasn't been happening. Because we have the new structure for documentation and there are places for this to go. It's just a matter of moving it.
The wiki's also pointing to the mailing list that's no longer used.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we can't get those scripted patches from everyone to update the wiki like we can and having it in tree. To optimize the security with HTTPS.
All right, then I'll move the
Well,
stuff
just
from the
send it
wiki to the docs as part of looking at it.
Okay.
And then when the patches are up.
Really?
You can edit on
Did you
the
read
patch for what's no longer relevant.
And some of the other more general wiki stuff that's out there, I'll work on moving over.
Oh my God, this was
Um,
the original, sorry.
What is it?
If you go to the Cinder wiki, there's a link to the Cinder brick wiki page. It's from like a minute
Yeah.
talking about brick
Wow.
blends.
Yep.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I found some really interesting
That's a
old
long
stuff out
time
Because
there.
the best example, it says on that page, best example presented by Fish at Last Summit.
Yeah.
Oh,
That was a long time ago.
Yes.
Yes, that was a long time ago.
I don't know if, speaking of documentation, but there was, I think it was poorly communicated, but the docs team had a spec that was supposed to try to get overall community input about standardizing that docs landing page for each project.
Yeah.
So I updated ours.
I saw you updated the Cinder one. I didn't want to change the.
Yeah,
plans,
well,
because
and
I
you
like
had
ours.
just did, I think the glance one you had done
I did that
a really
while
nice,
ago. Yeah, I
yeah.
don't want to change it.
Yeah. But if you just notice,
Yeah.
that's why that was changed to try to have consistency.
Okay.
Um,
All right, I'll make sure I look at that before I mess anything up.
Okay. Anything else around third-party CI right now?
The only thing would be to put a note in there about Cinderlib and Postbrick. This,
You mean for
for people to be running stuff against them at some point. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, we can do that for Oaks Creek now. For the Cinder Lake one, we have to figure out how that's going to
Yeah.
work first.
Yeah.
But
I guess as a first step, we could encourage people to do it and add a line in the support matrix or something. Saying tested. Yes, or whatever, I don't know.
because there actually was at least one bug that came in through Brick in the last cycle that would have been caught by dependency CIs there.
Okay. So that may be something that you want to consider when you're doing the dock cleanup.
Right.
Okay. Cool. Anybody be opposed to a brief bio break and then
Sounds good.
reconvene in 10 minutes or so? Okay. And that would let me split up this recording. Let's see. Okay, so we got Sophia and Rajat listening. I'll just leave Hangouts open. We're going to take a short break and come back in 10 minutes or so. 10, 15 minutes. All right.
Yeah, okay.